Hi there, I'm Julie Tam, managing broker of LYN REALTY in Houston, and thank you so much for joining me for Smarter Real Estate. This is a very special episode because this is my 100th episode. Can you believe it? I've been doing these videos for over 2 years now, weekly on Wednesdays, and usually I only take a break when there's a holiday right before or right after that Wednesday, or sometimes at the end of a season, or even in the middle of a season of the year. I get really busy with work, and so to better serve my clients, I take a little bit of time off from these videos. But otherwise, I've been pretty consistently posting every week, and you've been joining me, and I appreciate your viewership. So I wanted to make this episode all about you and the questions that you have for me. I had posted on social media a few weeks back asking you to send me any and all questions and that I would answer all of them. And some of you did. So thank you for submitting those. I will get to the answers to those questions in just a moment. But I first wanted to point out a few things as we are here on this 100th episode, where I've taken you on some of my real estate adventures, both beautiful and ugly, and also armed you with a lot of practical strategies to be a smarter buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord. Some of you have commented and reacted. There are people I don't know, and then some of you I do know personally, and you've told me whether you've messaged me or talked to me in person saying that you've learned a lot about real estate and about Houston through my videos. So thank you so much for watching. That is my goal, to really educate everyone, to make everyone smarter when it comes to making real estate decisions, whether or not you choose to have me be your real estate broker or property manager for your investment properties. Of course, if you do, that would be great. I can definitely put you into the best hands within our company or myself personally, and do practice the smarter real estate that I preach. So, and I can definitely preach it. All right. I do want to tease a few upcoming episodes so that you can watch out for that, and be sure to subscribe on YouTube and Facebook so that you don't miss an episode. And if you find these videos helpful and useful or entertaining, then I hope you will like and comment so that I can get your feedback and then do a better job of tailoring future videos to what my audience wants to see. In a future episode, I will be taking you through the remote remodel of a house that we owned and then sold in another state. So that's going to be very interesting, give you some ideas as well if you are looking to remodel, not at an extravagant level, but a little bit more affordable as remodels can get. So stay tuned for that one. And I'll also be doing several more videos about building my dream home, which is actually one of the questions that I have been asked by a few different people, actually, that I'll be talking about in just a little bit when I start doing the Q&A. And then also I'm going to have a video surrounding my 40th birthday, which is coming up in October, where I give you 40 real estate tips. So great strategies that you can implement that can be applicable and relevant to you, and most of them coming from my past videos, plus some new tips that you may not have heard if you were watching all of those videos. But certainly if you haven't seen all those videos, this is a great little summary, but you'll want to go back and watch those old videos to get a better explanation of all of them, and this video can be a review for you. And a lot of other videos I've got planned as well, just a lot of different real estate topics, so stay tuned. All right, so let's dive into the Q&A. Let me refer to my list of questions here so that I don't miss any. So one question that I was asked was, what is the best age to buy? Okay, so when you're looking at buying real estate, there is no right or wrong answer or best age. It is very personal, but let me give you some things to think about. So one is, obviously you need to be financially at a point where you can afford to buy and pay all of the costs involved. So your monthly mortgage, the principal and interest, your taxes, property taxes that you would not have to pay if you were renting, and also the insurance on your property. Again, if you're a tenant, you could get renter's insurance, but that's much less than insurance on the entire property, whether it be a house or a condo unit, where you at least have to insure the unit itself, maybe just not the exterior building that's insured by the homeowners or condo association's policy. And so those are considerations as the cost. You also could potentially pay HOA fees, whether monthly, annually, or both, depending on the neighborhood you buy in. So you want to make sure that you are in a good place in your life financially, because any of these things that you don't pay can cause you to get foreclosed on by the entity that you owe money to. And then that's really not good, right? Your house is repossessed or your home is repossessed. Now you have a horrible blemish on your credit report, one of the worst credit blemishes that you can have, and it's going to stay on there for several years, which is going to really hinder you in terms of trying to get new credit, whether it be a credit card, a car loan, any future home, whether it be for rent or to purchase, and all sorts of other things. So financial readiness is key. And also, it also should make sense in terms of if you are going to stay there. So sort of a general piece of advice that we've heard is if you're going to stay in a home for at least 5 years, then it's worth it to buy. If it's less than that, maybe not so much. That's not always a hard and fast rule, because it also depends on the market, right? If you purchased a home, for example, before this COVID-19 pandemic, and then you tried to sell it in, kind of the second half of 2020 or the first half of 2021, you would have probably made a profit. In some places, the homes have appreciated wildly. And so in that case, having stayed there for longer wouldn't have made as much of a difference, because let's say you tried to sell now, or even a few years from now, we don't know how the market is going to go, but the price could go down. And so it really depends, and we can't predict the future, but typically appreciation does happen over time and it doesn't happen overnight. So it is best, if you are going to stay in that place for a while, to then go ahead and buy a home, because you're going to be putting down roots. But sometimes that's hard to predict, because we don't know if we're going to have a job transfer, if you're single and you decide to get married and move to another city to where your spouse needs to be for whatever reason. So many factors could play into it. And I can tell you from personal experience, what happened with my husband and me is that we bought a home in Louisville thinking that I would stay there for longer than I ended up staying there. I actually lived there for 5 years, but we, after we got married, rented for the first 3 years and then bought a home thinking we might stay for several years. Ended up staying for only 2 years after we bought the home. And then another job came calling. I moved back to Texas. I was a TV news anchor and reporter at that time. And so ended up moving to a station in Dallas, Fort Worth, to start a new job. So we decided to try to sell the home, but we weren't getting offers at, where we exactly wanted to be. The market wasn't super hot at that time, and the price just hadn't appreciated enough. And so because of that, we would have barely broke even, possibly even lost a little bit of money. So we decided, we're going to rent out the home. So that's another option. And so we did that for about 10 years, actually a little over 10 years. We rented out the home, and then we just sold it this year. And this is the home that I'll be featuring in a future video coming up soon to talk about the whole remodel and selling process. Okay, so if you can buy early and build that equity and start paying off that mortgage, then of course that's even better, because you're going to have that home paid off before you know it. I would say that if you are able to get a 15-year loan, great, because you pay less interest over time. But if you feel like that's going to put you in a financial pinch where you're going to be stressed out and finding it really tight to pay that mortgage every month, then don't do it. Get a 30-year loan, for example, so you have the option to stretch it out if you need to. But if you want to make additional payments each month, or once every several months, or once a year, or whenever you want to do it that makes sense for you financially and your budget, then you can pay toward principal only. Now, don't just make an extra payment and that's it, because the bank will just think you're making an extra payment ahead of time. You're still paying the same amount of interest. You want to tell your lender that this is specifically to be applied to the principal only, not to interest. So that will pay down your principal, meaning you pay less interest over time. And so in that case, you could end up paying off your 30-year mortgage much faster. You could pay it off in half the time and it ends up being like a 15-year mortgage. And so if that's what you can do, then do that. And so you'll get that paid off much faster. If you imagine that you're like 25, 30 years old, you could have that mortgage paid off at, age 40, 45, right? And so that can go by much faster. If you extend it on and really make it a 30-year mortgage, and if you're living in that home for that long, then of course, you're going to end up paying on that until you're like close to retirement age, and who wants to do that? You might want to upgrade your home at that point. Of course, if you sell your home, then you would stop making those mortgage payments and go ahead and, the sale of the home will just pay off whatever is left in your mortgage balance. Okay, so I hope I've given you some advice on that. Second question is, if you are an investor, What should you look for and buy to rent out? Great question. I did a video really in depth about this, a long video. So search back through the archives and look for that. It's about diving into income property. And actually, I think I've done a couple of videos about this. So it goes into much more depth, but I'll give you kind of the basics. So you want to buy, obviously looking for area and location, because the location is something that you really can't change. Are you close to a freeway? Not so close where it's noisy, but close enough to where it's quick access or to major thoroughfares for people to go to employment centers and conveniences nearby, making sure that there's not eyesores, like a landfill nearby or other nuisances, sources of noise or odor pollution, high voltage power lines running right alongside the property on any side, and things like that. Obviously, certain things can get built after you purchase the property, and there's really nothing you can do about that because you couldn't predict the future. But it's best, for example, not to buy something that backs up to an empty piece of land that has yet to be developed, because you don't know what it could be developed into. And even if it's zoned as something like residential, it could be rezoned to, say, industrial, which is kind of, potentially a negative thing. So you want to look at all of those things, the whole surroundings, and also schools. If it's zoned to good public schools, that is usually going to mean that the property will maintain its value and that more people will desire to live there, and also better quality tenants that will take care of your home. So you want to also buy in a neighborhood that is kept up pretty well, that the HOA does make sure people are maintaining their lawns, they're not jacking up cars, to repair them in the middle of the driveways, or a bunch of cars parked on the streets, loud music being played, etc., because that is what makes the property values go down. And so other things to look for are obviously your return after you are paying whatever holding costs you have, like mortgage, taxes, insurance, HOA, and any potential, kind of regular maintenance. Then that your return, whatever rent that you could get, is going to help you at least break even if you are paying a mortgage. So it's like the tenant is paying off your mortgage for you and all your expenses for you, or that you will make some sort of profit if you're paying cash, meaning you don't have a mortgage payment. So therefore your revenue can be higher that you're going to take home every month. All right. Other things to look for is the age of the home. If you buy a home that is older, 30, 40 years plus, then you're looking at potentially some larger maintenance outlays, unless those have already been done. For example, replacing underground plumbing or electrical systems, things like that, that could be rather costly. There could be foundation problems, or there may not be, but it just depends. If you have large trees that are really growing and those root systems are getting very much close to the house, if the trees are already close to the house and going under the house, that can cause your foundation to have problems. So of course, a newer home is going to have fewer maintenance issues that are more expensive right away. But of course, they'll tend to be more expensive when you compare dollar per square foot, which is kind of how you can compare apples to apples more or less. If you take into account the same number of floors and then also similar number of bedrooms and baths and garage spaces. And of course, the quality of the home in terms of the finishes. But yeah, if you are getting a newer home, then of course, like I said, you're going to pay a little bit more at the outset, but then just factor that into maybe some of the maintenance that you don't have to pay as soon as with an older home. Okay. And this advice also is pretty much true anywhere. Of course, I'm speaking to the greater Houston area where we manage more than 300, I should say, rental properties for our landlord clients. And we also own a portion of those, different people in our family. But really this advice is applicable, anywhere. It's this pretty general advice. Okay. Next question. How did you make the transition from TV news to real estate? Okay, so as you've probably heard, when people change careers, change industries entirely, there are a lot of transferable skills. So for television, you can imagine that I was having to synthesize a lot of information every day, whatever story I was put on, whether it be a health-related story or a story about the economy or a triple murder or a city council meeting about a dog ordinance, whatever the topic was, which I really covered every type of topic imaginable. I had to quickly learn about it, get all the information, and sometimes if it was more esoteric, like a medical story or something more very specialized, like something technology related, I had to break it down to where it could be understandable in layman's terms for anyone who would tune in to that TV news story. And that's really what I have to do in real estate in a way, even though my topic is the same always, it's real estate, but every property is different. There are nuances, and the goal of every property is different. Some people are buying to live in the home, some people are buying to invest. And so the approach is different. And so I need to be able to explain all of that, explain boring real estate contract documents and financing process and closing timeline and all of those things to my clients. And I've had clients of all different walks of life, different educational backgrounds, income levels, etc., and different levels of English proficiency. And so I've even had to explain contracts in Mandarin, for example, which is my third language. So, each language I speak gets weaker and weaker. I speak 4. And so, those are skills that I'm able to transfer. And also the on-camera skills. So obviously I make this Smarter Real Estate video series, and then I do video tours for a lot of my listings, rentals and sales. And you know what? You won't find another kind of video tour like mine, where I take you through each home as if you were touring it personally with me, but really in a journalistic style. Of course, I'm trying to sell the home, so it's not, completely objective, but it's true and fair and honest and thorough. And I'm really kind of being your eyes and ears at the property. And that's the whole point of the video tour. So where we have buyers that are from out of town or out of state or even out of country. And so if they can't be there to see the property, we want to make sure the video tour takes them through the property. And also it could be a precursor. Someone could be in town and they want to see the video tour before they decide to spend the time to make an appointment to come out and actually see the property in person. And so I do my clients really a due diligence, my sellers and my landlords, by making these videos and taking these people through the property and highlighting, all of the features. Also showing, certain things that you might not be able to tell from a photo, like size, right? How tall is the ceiling compared to me? And, where can you fit certain types of furniture? How big can the furniture be? And how certain things function. I can demonstrate them on camera. And so it's a really kind of a unique style of video. There's not the pizzazz where people, do the music and editing and all of that, because really a lot of those, they're not truly videos. It's just the camera that's parked in the middle of the room. They pan right, pan left, or pan from left to right, and it's really like a still photo that you're just like, doing a pan left to right, and you can do that in the editing process. You don't even need to do a video. And sometimes it's a slideshow, right? And when you're jumping from room to room, the way that some of the other realtors and their videographers do it, well, then the buyer, the potential tenant doesn't get a frame of reference or perspective as to where things are located. So I take you from this bedroom, then down the hall to the next bedroom, to the closet, to the bathroom, back out to the hall, up the stairs. You see what I mean? So that way you can really see where everything is located in relation to everything else, how far I'm having to walk to go from one thing to another in the space, versus just, here's one bedroom, let me show you around, and then I'm gonna jump to the other bedroom and you didn't even get to see the hallway, right? So a video tour is really meant to be very thorough, like you were touring the home in person, because if you were there in person, you would be walking down that hallway between the 2 bedrooms. You wouldn't just jump from one bedroom to the other and not see what was in between. All right, so yes, very transferable there. And of course, I present for my clients, I present the property just like I present in news stories. So you want to present well and speak well and make sense to people and communicate effectively, whether it be in writing or verbally. And so that's something that I definitely have a lot of experience with audience of millions, now an audience, a much smaller audience, but an audience nonetheless. And I should say, most of my viewers are actually on Facebook. So I routinely get hundreds of views of each video that I post each week. And on YouTube, sometimes it's less. But I also, funny enough, have had videos where there's thousands of views, several thousand views. And sometimes it's not the video that I would expect. It's really not the most exciting video. I may just be sitting in my car talking to the camera, and for whatever reason, that topic just got a lot of interest and people were commenting and reacting and sharing and all of that. So it's just funny how that all works. Okay, final, 4th question. that I got is, are you going to post videos about your new home building process? And of course the answer is yes. So I've already posted a couple of videos about sort of the pre-construction phase, the lot buying and the pre-construction steps. And so those aren't as exciting because you don't really see a whole lot just yet. But as we progress and go forward and we're designing the floor plan and making selections and actually breaking ground on and building the home, you'll get to go with me on along for the entire journey. And so yes, I will be taking you. So definitely look out for videos that are titled Building My Dream Home. And then there's some sort of subtitle about what that specific episode is about. Yes, because some of you have told me that you are very interested in just seeing how it all works, seeing the design, seeing the selection process for all the materials used in the home and the colors and all of that stuff, because you yourself like that kind of thing, and or you yourself are doing a remodeling project or something like that and you just want ideas for yourself. So I'm happy to share and happy to help. Okay. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you did, please click like. And again, don't forget to subscribe and keep tuning in for Smarter Real Estate weekly on Wednesdays. Hope you have a great week and I will see you again. Thank you for helping me get to this 100th episode. There will be another 100 and hopefully another and another and many more. Have a great one. Bye.